Blakey Johnston, how you going, mate?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm very good. It's nice to have you here in my little studio. It's the Chumpy Pullen Foundation Gala tonight. So you're up here on the Gold Coast, and I was like, I have to have a chat to you. You've done some extraordinary stuff over the last month or so, but your whole life is something that really fascinates me. So, mate, maybe to start off, tell the listeners who's Blake Johnston.
Blakey Johnston is 41 today. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday, bro.
Thanks, man. Thank you. And I used to surf semi-professionally. I did the QS for a couple of years. I get set professionally.
Same as me.
And then I found my way into surf coaching, owning a surf school and coaching some of the best kids in my area and the state. And, evolving into, doing some endurance training. And, I don't know. It's hard to
put it into words.
There's a lot of things there. But,
from the outside looking in, it looks like you're a guy that likes to push the limits, live life to the fullest, and really try and give back to your community, which is exactly the sort of people that I see as a good human. So that's why you're here.
Oh, thanks, man.
What I'm going to start off with is a question that I open up with everybody. What are you grateful for right now?
I am grateful for the people I get to connect with, my family and the people I see every single day. My community, I've always been grateful for what I've had, but just getting that little bit older and realizing the opportunities that we have around us and just how hard, everyone's, the people that I'm surrounded by, I'm proud of everyone that's surrounded by me. That's where I find my inspiration, not just the people that do crazy things, but the people that, work hard to be good humans and good parents and business owners and try to make the world a better place.
Bloody love that. It's people living with values and like that purpose and actually connect with you is so important. It sounds like you've got those people around you, which is amazing.
For sure.
One thing that I do also start with, Drink a Repper is our sponsor. You said you've listened to some podcasts, so you might have heard me talk about these guys. Yeah. Have you ever tried it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, great.
But I like the colour.
Yeah, so purple polyphenols. Yeah. So it's a New Zealand Euroberry, blackcurrant, L-theanine and pine bark extract, no caffeine, all natural. And it's the only clinically studied beverage in the Southern Hemisphere for neuroscience. And they've spent $5 million on clinical studies, work with Dementia Australia. Short-term brain performance. They basically wanted to shake up the energy drink industry because it's obviously just poison that they're giving us. But yeah, all natural, super healthy, and good for our long-term brain health too. So
epic, crack it,
and a little cheers. And
I've got slippery fingers.
What
a baby!
There we go. I got it.
Thanks, Dad.
Cheers. Welcome to
Thanks, fella.
The Rapper little zone. Yeah, it's so nice having a juice that's really good for you.
It reminds me of Ribena on your grum.
That's what everyone says. But Ribena wasn't healthy and this stuff is. Yeah.
Oh,
it's good.
Epic.
Get the brain fired up. So, mate, your story is fascinating. You just broke the world record for the world's longest surf. We're going to catch up to that. I was lucky enough to be involved for a short time. It's quite fitting that we talk about it today as well, going to the Chumpy Gala tonight. We can have a bit of a chat about that. But I want to get to know your story first, why you did it, why you've and what you've experienced through your life. So let's go back to the start. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was life like as a kid up into high school?
Yeah, I born and bred Cronulla. I absolutely love the place. I feel like it's where I'm meant to be, And even when I used to travel so much, it was always awesome coming home as well. Love the area it is. It's just what we have there, man. We're surrounded by rivers and pump and reef breaks on their day and a beach break that's always breaking. It's never amazing, but it's always there, and the community, and there's just so much you can access from this one place close to the airport. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, Cronulla's amazing. So what was life like as a kid, family life, stuff that you can kind of remember that might help shape your story as to why you are the
So
man
I grew up in a big family.
Yeah.
I got 4 brothers. So there was always a bit of chaos happening.
Shout out to Ben. Blakey's brother Ben's been my accountant since I was 14. So about 14 years I've been with Ben.
Yeah, wow.
Great guy.
Yeah, no, he's awesome.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And so 4 brothers, a dad who worked his absolute arse off. Got a really, we learned a lot of core values through him. Just he wasn't someone that would give you lots and lots of advice, but was just there for you. He's so authentic and true to his word. And that was something that, I can say proud of myself and my brothers. They're great husbands and they work really hard at their work. And that's, just through the actions Dad took, working so hard to sustain the family. You know, I'm sure it wasn't easy back then. He was a bricklayer and a builder. We lived in Cronulla.
Wow.
And he'd drive to the North Shore every day. Like, that's torture, man.
Yeah,
every day sitting in that traffic and getting up early and coming back. And we lived close to the beach. You know, at times we moved around a lot because he was like a bricklayer and then a builder.
Yeah.
So mum and dad had a crack at building their own few homes and making money that way. So we moved around quite a bit, never within sort of 5 minutes from the beach. So
always Cronulla though.
Yeah, always close to the beach, you know, like at most of the times within walking distance over the hill. Yeah. And that's probably my fondest memories, you know, just chasing my 2 older brothers and my dad. My dad actually surfed really good.
Sick.
Actually one of the first ever state schoolboys that they held.
No way.
Cronulla High with Eddie Conlon. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, so he was a good surfer. So not just looking at my brother, my dad could actually surf. And 25 years ago, that was even longer. I'm old as. It's like 34 years ago. That was pretty cool to have a dad that not only surfed, but that surfed really well. And 2 brothers that did it. So yeah, I was addicted to just doing what my brothers did from early on, chasing them, and then my dad too, just waiting there for him to come home from work. And he was as cooked as he could be, just smashing work all day. There was a period where he worked, you know, 7 days a week for 10 years, you know, 6 days a week at the job, and then that Sunday in the evenings on the houses that they were doing to try to get the hedge, you know. So we just saw him never complain and just get on through it and just be this humble, genuine dude that we just, you know, we loved. We all just, you know, just wanted to hang out with him because he was cool as well, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. How old were you when you had your first surf experience?
Oh, I can remember like being about 7 and my dad taking my brothers down the coast. My brothers were devoed that I'd had to come along because dad had to keep an eye on me and they couldn't surf. And this one memory down at Windang, there's this left point down the south coast. And they went to surf it, and you got to paddle across some deep water to get out.
Like Green Island?
It's like Green Island, like that same sort of setup, but it's in Windang, so near Shell Harbour.
Okay.
It's his left point. And then I wanted to go out, but it was like 6 foot, and I didn't know any better. And then dad had staying with me on the shore, and then my brothers were just fuming that like I couldn't go out there with him as well. And that was just, dad used to take us down the south coast because he had an affiliation with it back in the day. And I just, you know, I have some stories that his friends told me. He was really humble. So a lot of the stories I heard about my dad, even winning the state title and stuff, were through people who grew up with him, never him big noting himself or talking it up like that. But just we heard a lot about him through, you know, how good he used to surf and what he used to get up to.
That's so cool. That's so cool that you bring that up. My fondest and earliest memories of surfing too are at Manana and Green Island, like getting pushed into waves there is like probably if I like look back to my first memories of like surfing, it was the same thing going down the south coast.
Yeah. Sick. I remember getting like a foamy, this random like cool light foamy when I was about 5 or 6 and it was a surfboard and we went to the beach, but
it's a difference
really wanting to be there. I was like 7 or 8 and then by 8 or 9, I was waiting for dad every afternoon. He'd come home cooked and I'd be like, let's go, Dad, let's go. I wasn't allowed to go till I was about 9 on my own. My brothers were already over the hill. We lived close to Woolooware High and Cronulla High where we went. And I couldn't carry my own board because I was so little. But I had to wait for Dad to do that for me. And then I can vividly remember the day that Mum goes, he's been waiting for you and Dad was cooked. I can remember.
Just let him go.
You know, what do you reckon, Wayne? That was my dad's name. Can he go on his own? And Dad's like, yeah, he can go on his own. I can remember just the stokest I've ever been bored on the head and just bolted over the hill, and that was it. I was, you know, I think even Matt Granger, someone who I'm friends with, said that he's never seen anyone surf as much as I did from the age of sort of 9 to 16. He's still to this day, I just loved it and wouldn't get out of the water.
And that's a big thing for Matt Granger to say because that guy
he's a more than I've ever seen. He's a frother.
He's the biggest frother ever.
Yeah, he loves it.
Mate, I love the introduction to surfing. It's great. Let's talk about teenage years now. Going through high school, sights set on competing as a surfer probably. When did you first get that taste of competition surfing and getting into, you know what, maybe I can do a career out of this?
Yeah, so got a taste of it. Like the first ever comp was just the local board riders, Lura board riders.
Love local
and
board
just there was a spot I was over with my brothers because they could keep an eye on me down there, and then a spot came up and I surfed against them. I actually beat my oldest brother because it was 4 waves back then, so it was pretty funny. I just went out and got 4 whitewash with my little poo man and ended up beating him. And he's 8 years older than me. He was already sponsored and he was like surfing really good and, you know.
Just had one of those heats.
Yeah, he actually made it to the World Schoolboys one day too. He rode SMP and pot surfboards and a few things like that. And I beat him. And I remember just couldn't believe that I'd beat him. And then I saw the look on his face and I ran over the hill home and locked myself in the bathroom for the rest of the day.
No way.
Their mum was freaking out, not knowing where I was, and didn't know where I was for like 3-4 hours later. And then Adam came home fuming and she's like, "Where's Blake?" Because he's home. He's at home. They found me. I was upstairs like shitting myself. That's my first competition memory. But yeah, I guess that might have lit the fire and chased it.
You just unlocked the first memory of my surf comp. I like this. You keep like unlocking memories of mine. That I remember my first board riders at North Narrabeen board riders. I had to surf in like the 14s, the cadets, and I would have been like 9 or 10.
Would have been intense then too, man.
And I remember I came in and I was just so oblivious to it. And I'm pretty sure I dropped in on like every wave on someone. And I just remembered this just then because I'd like only ever had 1 or 2 interferences in my whole career. And I thought I was like, actually towards the end, I got a few more. But I remember my first ever comp, one of the older boys like, "Mate, you can't be dropping in on people like that." Like, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even realize." So from then I was so cautious. And up until I was in the QS, not once in the Pro Junior, in the under 14, 16s, I ever got an interference. I reckon and now I remember why.
But that sort of shapes the way you are as a competitor as well, right?
I remember, that's crazy that I remembered that. That just brought up a memory, but mate.
That's cool.
So board riders where it starts. What about high school?
And then I did pretty good. Like I was winning the regionals and then I won a couple of state titles and I was actually getting paid from the age of 14. Wow. So I was getting paid, and that was, I kept saying, but it was 30 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, not quite, 26, 27 years ago, early teens. And
so like late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s. So getting paid off like Quicksilver and Gorilla Grip and Simple Shoes and all these companies that, and I didn't understand it that much at the moment, like quite at the moment. I remember the first phone call I got was someone rang me from Gorilla Grip and goes, "Oh, we want to put you on a retainer." I'm like, "Oh, what's that mean?" And I'm like, "We want to pay you to use the grip." And I'm like, "I already use it. It's cool." Like just sort of saying, "Oh, I love the product already." But so from 14 I got paid money, and then when I'm 15, 16 I was getting paid and taken around the world with Quicksilver and went to Hawaii with Tom Carroll and was sort of nurtured by Andrew Murphy. And he was an ex-Cronulla surfer. Yeah. He was on the world tour for a year or two. And he worked for Quicksilver. He's one of the main guys at Quicksilver and looked after the team and stuff back then too. So I had a really good relationship with him. He's someone I'd always looked up to and kind of took me under his wing and gave me a lot of opportunities.
Nice.
And I wasn't at school much. I was at,
so you're traveling.
Missed a lot. Yeah. I was still there and I was still passing.
Yeah.
I think it was I think it was 80 days or 76 days I missed in year 10.
Wow.
I was doing it, but I was traveling a lot then and still passed. But, and then year 11, I changed sponsors from Quicksilver to Rusty.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of a big deal at the moment because I had such a good relationship with Murph and that was a big part of it. The deals were similar, but riding for Rusty, I was going to be more their main junior as opposed to back then. Mick was still just with Quicksilver, about to move with Rip Curl, but so I made a good decision. My brother Ben, even back then, was helping me.
Yeah.
And, I signed with Rusty. And then,
was it a good change?
It was a good change, but it's something that stands out because the day the same week that I signed with Rusty and changed sponsors, I landed in Perth and just met the team manager, lovely bloke, Damo, he's a legend. And he just goes, "Oh, have you heard about Murph?" And Murph had taken his own life. So that was pretty rattling. That was something that still kind of I'm shaking now thinking about it. Wow. I'd been 16 and already having that little bit of guilt going, I wonder if I
stayed with Quickie.
Wonder if I upset him, like did I having that little bit. So I never really processed that until years and years later when one of my older brothers, Adam, said, "Oh, you've been around it for a long time, people that you've cared about." I was like, fuck it. It's true, like I've always been someone who's emotionally connected and empathetic and compassionate towards people. It's not something like I've discovered as I've learned to like myself more. Yeah. It's been something that, that it's hard to, when you're a little kid and you're feeling things and you have a lot of empathy, it's hard to sort of navigate it a little bit.
It's hard to have that emotional intelligence to be able to deal with those emotions because we don't get taught that stuff when we're young at school. And there's so many of us that feel a lot, but then don't get told what we're feeling and how to navigate that. It's interesting you brought that up. Man, we have so many similarities in our story. It's crazy because I started getting paid at 14, 15 and I was with Rip Curl. And then when I was 16, I changed to Hurley and that was a big change in my career as well. I'm just seeing so many similarities.
Yeah, that's cool, eh?
So what was
both from core surf towns too, you know what I mean? Where there is that
Cronulla,
that hierarchy. There is that, that toughness to it as well. And I think that's what, I'm tough, but I'm also, it's hopefully I'm proving that you can be tough and vulnerable at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I think that's been tough, put yourself out, being who you are and showing that it's okay to struggle. And that's what led me sort of down this path. I think it makes perfect sense to why I challenge myself like I do. And
to show what things. The mind is capable of. And because you obviously see the extremes on the mental illness side as well, which we'll continue to talk through your story, but showing that our mind is capable of so much to overcome not only the physical challenge, but those mental challenges that come up from the physical challenge. Totally. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of sharpens the iron.
It's the best training, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, it's so good.
So after your old team manager passed away, junior series on...
Yeah, junior series. I did pretty good on there. Me, Ace, Micro, Bots, these guys that I'd met younger. I've still got a really good relationship with all these guys. Yeah. We've been friends for nearly 30 years.
Yeah, wow.
Meeting at the Grum Comps.
Yeah.
Travelled with them and then transitioned into the QS. So I did pretty good as a junior. I was getting a lot... Like I was saying, I was getting paid well. So I was doing the pro juniors, still doing 4 or 5 surf trips a year and getting the editorial and the photos. For all my sponsors would use me in advertising.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good for my name and all that. But at the same time, I'd done well so young that I didn't have enough foresight. Like if I look back now, it's like I was sort of protecting what I had. I'd always been, someone who was going to potentially get on the world tour and do this and have the name around it. And all the guys like Flynn Off and Micro and Ace and that, they had that to aspire to. So it was always good for them to look, I want to get what he's getting.
So
and that sort of helped them. And when we got to about 16, 17, I sort of had, the easiest way to put it is a bit of a fixed mindset. I was sort of protecting what I had and making sure that I was keeping everyone happy, again, being emotionally that. And then so I sort of dispersed myself a bit, did half the QS, half the photos, and then the guys that knew what was going on, they had that growth mindset that would go, all right, I want to be here in 5 years' time. Of making that progress forward. And that's so important in all parts of our lives, right? But just having that next little goal, they're ticking off. And Flint's was doing QSs when he was 15 in Europe, going over and, well, why is he doing QSs so early? By the time I started him, he was 4 rounds ahead of me. I had to serve 4 or 5 heats to even make money, and he's starting there.
Yeah.
So like they just understood that's something to aspire to each time. And
it's so really interesting. We have like such similar careers. Like I'm just like listening to it, like just thinking like I feel so similar. Like had pretty successful junior career and finally got to the QS and got to like the challenge or like the prime or whatever it would have been back then, like into the main rounds for you guys. And I feel like you're going to probably say you relate. It's like you kind of felt like it was going to be as easy as a junior. Like, I'll just go the next step. I'll qualify. I'll get my time on tour.
Yeah.
And then you kind of hit that QS level and you're like, whoa, there's like a lot of good surfers out here in the world and it takes like,
man. And you don't learn and it's crazy. Yeah. It's like, it's an advantage to not be the best guy when you're younger.
Look, Connor.
Definitely.
Connor's a perfect example.
Connor's the perfect example.
That's perfect example. And Connor will probably listen to this, and he'll agree with me. Through the juniors, Connor was kind of always just like knocking on the door, but didn't quite have the results that he wanted. But then it like hit the QS, and it just like changed and was just so dominant.
Connor's unique in the sense that like
he just keeps getting better.
He keeps getting better even now, and that's because he loves like seeing that little bit of progress, you know what I mean? He's not the most intense character you've ever met in terms of his competitiveness or anything, but he loves surfing and loves seeing that little bit of self-improvement, and it's never stopped. From coaching him from when he was like 12, we spent a lot of time together.
Sick.
He's, I look at him like a little brother almost.
Yeah, he's
even though he's 3 foot taller than me.
We saw him last night.
Couldn't look more apart, but I have a lot of respect for him, and that's cool to say someone so much younger than me too.
Yeah, he's a bloody legend. So let's talk about now your 20s. Once you got onto the QS, what was going on in life? What were some of the challenges that you found once moving on to that next stage and traveling the world in your early 20s?
Yeah, it was at that point where I was starting to do the QS, move out of the pro juniors. Back then you could surf until you were 19 or 20, so I was doing the QS, and I was getting through heats, but I was getting through like 3 or 4 heats, which wasn't good enough. I needed to be making it through 7, 8 heats of contests. That's a lot of competing you're doing back then, and a lot of traveling. And I look back now and I wish I had made more of the time outside of those events, but it was a pretty jam-packed schedule. There's a lot of money in the QS back then.
Yeah, it's huge.
Some guys were doing like 20 events a year, 23 events a year and stuff. But
and the prize money was pretty good too, eh? It was like,
right. And they pay you cash US dollars, so you just keep sharp. Like it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then as as I was progressing and getting through, my ranking was getting slowly, but money dries up pretty quickly. I was 20 years old, and all right, now it's time to focus on the QS. I'll do more. Yeah, the sponsorship has slowed down a bit, and it was just going to take a bit longer than I thought. Like I was slowly improving my ranking and everything, but then the money was backing off, and I was like, "Oh, am I on the right? Am I where I want to be right now?" And I kind of started working a little bit at Triple Bull. Did a couple of days with my dad, but I hated that.
Yeah.
I knew how hard he worked, and I wanted to be around the ocean in some form or another. And then so Dog Marsh said, just work for me a couple of days when you're home or flexible, just like the coolest opportunity ever. He's like, you just work when you want, go surfing, but when you hear your work. And he taught me some really good things, and I have a good relationship with Dog since I was a micro grom. He's a bit of a Cronulla icon. And I just worked with him a day or two a week. He let me surf. It was pumping. I wasn't home that often, but then about that time, I saw the surf school just plodding alongside that, and I'm like, I want to buy the surf school. Like, take it easy, just go do the rest of the QS this year. Travel with my then girlfriend Lauren, who's now my wife.
Amazing.
And went and did 3 months in Europe in the comps, and sort of just at that point knew it was my last year. I wasn't that into it. I was more excited to be traveling and looking forward to going to Poland and Austria and doing all these things afterwards. So it wasn't like a farewell to it. But
how old were you here?
21 or 22.
Oh, so you gave it pretty. Kind of changed your mind on it pretty early.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. But mainly because, like, at that time, I had that thought of the surf school in my head going, oh, that's pretty sick.
Because it seems like there's obviously was a love for competing, but it seems like even from a young age with the amount of time you spend in the water, it's more about the love of the ocean and the connection with people in the ocean that seems more important to you than the competition almost.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't realize that till later on, you know what I mean? That's what I still love now about it, about the whole thing,
Yeah.
Be out there on anything, and the way that it brings people together, and through the surf school. So then So
you did that last trip, 3 months. That's so funny you say that as well. One more similarity. I did my last round the world trip for the QS knowing that it was going to be my last. And I met my beautiful partner in Portugal on the last trip, and now she's here permanently. I brought her home with me.
There you go.
So once again, we have another similarity.
Well, this is part of what I've learned more than ever, and just the message. You're exactly where you're meant to be. You know what I mean? Every part of your life, like it's a hard thing to grasp when you're struggling and you're battling, and nothing seems to be going your way. But I truly believe that more than anything. That's what any of the challenges I've done have taught me. You get through it, and if you're not seeing progress, you're not looking in the right places, and that takes a bit of more self-awareness when you're feeling good too. Most people look for it when they're not feeling good, but to maintain it and see how we can do that better when we're feeling good is the big ticket to maintaining it.
I think it's so important to have those things to lean back on when times do get tough. Go, okay, am I doing those bare minimums that I know make me feel good? Am I exercising? Am I eating right? Am I sleeping right?
And that's just self-awareness, right?
Exactly.
And that's what all these practical tools that we do, like the breath work and
that's
it. It's very simple, and that's the thing with me. It doesn't need to be too woo-woo or scientific. It's practical, and you feel it when you immerse yourself in these actions, and they're so accessible.
Yeah. So let's talk about 21, finishing, kind of competing. What's the progress into behind the surf school?
Yeah, so I think I'd already done a couple of lessons or something, and maybe I think I bought half the surf school, and then when I came back from that trip, and then but I paid it off, so I was like working lessons, and he's just helped me out a lot. I was working lessons to pay off the 15 or 20 grand, whatever it was, to buy in half the surf school.
Yeah,
did the travel to Europe, came back and smashed out that summer, and the surf school just went from 500 people a year to 5,000 people a year. So just by doing that. So I just brought the energy and just
the froth.
Brought the kids in. So I did. I'm like, we've got to get the kids down here and get it in there. So it did really good that year. And then Dog moved to France and for a year, and then was killing it because I was working hard and making money. And like he gave the opportunity, he totally deserved it. And then he came back, and I bought the rest of the surf school off him. So it would have been about.
Also, Dog owned the surf school, and you bought it off Dog.
Yeah.
Oh, sick. Yeah. That's such a cool story.
Yeah. So,
and then he went over with his partner in Portugal, yeah?
No, France.
Yeah. I went to his place. I stayed at his place for a night.
I think it's Anglet down
there.
Yeah,
we went to the Bayonne Pig Festival. Me and Connor and were you there? No. You weren't there. Who else was there? Me, Connor, Wade, one of the Frenchy competitors, and we ended up having like a loose night out there. and then stayed at Dogs.
Sick.
It's funny. Yeah, he's such a legend.
He loves it
and his
too.
family's
He loves
so
going.
lovely.
He loves.
Yeah,
loves a good night.
yeah, it was fun. We went out with his daughters. It was so fun. We just had like the
Sick.
funniest night out.
So good.
Yeah, so owning the surf school, early mid-20s, like it's
Yeah, mid-20s.
big
Yeah,
time to be
mid-20s then.
owning a business and
Yeah.
running a business.
It's felt right though. I never felt like a huge challenge, but luckily I've got my brother Ben who's helped guiding me, and it was risky though. Like 50 grand for a 24-year-old that's recently engaged and looking at his future without any formal education and just believing in what it was.
Vision,
not so much myself, but believing in what it was, and then seeing it was more than just getting paid at the end of the week. I was making people stoked, and it was, and that's can't put a dollar on that.
So you've had that surf school for like 15 years now, 16 years,
17 years now. So I'm 41 today. So yeah, about 24 in there.
Amazing. All right, let's fast forward to your 30s. I know something happened that was pretty monumental in your life that's changed. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's talk about your 30s. What were the challenges through there?
Yeah, so the challenges were, the surf school going pretty good, progressing to a level where it's my full-time job, not working anywhere else. That took a good time. Like it took a good 5 years to not have to work with my brothers on days off or
oh wow, so you weren't like because I've only worked at Manly Surf School and seen like they run like a well-oiled machine, like So you were just like a couple of lessons in the arvo, a couple in the morning.
It's still going pretty good, but just be able to keep the growth going, like to get the big schools through, to employ people, give them my work so that I actually had the staff there when I needed them. Yeah. So I'd go and work with my brothers who own a scaffolding business, my two younger brothers.
Sick.
So I go and work on the tools with them. I'm not that good at it, but I talk too much. But they're legends. They work so hard, Sam and Dane, and then go do lessons the afternoon, in the morning, days off whenever I want. It just was perfect. You know what I mean? Like they let me help grow my business, and working with them, carrying steel made me want to fucking do it as much as possible.
Yeah,
and that was really good. So through there, met my wife, married Lauren. We only got married when we were 20. I was 24, 25 when I married my wife, so that was pretty young. She was 23 or something. So did that. And then, we had Bobby when I was 29, my first kid. And then, which was awesome. And it's those, around that time, they're big transitions, going from this guy who runs his own show, really, like running the business, working elsewhere I want, surfing when I want. Just, I say sometimes now, like, I'm totally unemployable. I've just got this, like,
zest for life. Yeah. Is what I think.
And I'm just been working for myself for so long. It's always been reactive to, being young, and I've had it pretty good, man. Like in terms of flexibility, and being able to react. And
but
do
you
what
create those opportunities for yourself. That's something that you know. That's the sort of life that you want to live and that you want to operate. Like it's not lucky. It's like you're
for sure
working towards to be able to get that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like, and I love your story that I love that you gave up surfing early just because you found something that mattered just as much to you. Once again, similarities. So that's how I feel with the good human factor. I probably could have chased it another few years, but I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Yeah. And it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, into your 30s, young dad.
Yeah.
Business running.
Young dad, new sick unit we bought at Cronulla and renovated. My dad actually renovated and everything. And, there are struggles there where you've got you're thinking about the future now and thinking I've got more that's more than just about me. I've got a wife that works really hard she worked for a commercial furniture company doing marketing, and she worked a lot, and I was trying to make this business even better and I always thought I'd love to be able to let her spend more time with the kids when we do have kids and make the business bigger and stuff as well. So I was putting pressure on myself that wasn't like that. And then being a young dad and there's expectations and that you put on yourselves and not coming from anyone else, just internally. Yeah. And that gets pretty stressful, like when you just ruminate on those things. And then financially it's pretty hard when you've got one income, big mortgage, your own business that's seasonal, East Coast of Australia is not the most ideal place to run a business. It's based on nature. Like you've got to be reactive. And I think that's why I'm good at it. Why Matt Grange is good at it. Like, you've got to react. You got to know that you're maybe not working for 3 weeks. Like last year in La Nina, it was the hardest, most stressed I've nearly ever been.
Really,
work related, just because it's like, wow, this is heavy. I can't control it, and it was just like I learned so much through that experience because I'm confident with the surf school. I know how everything's worked, but when it was just this huge bout of time with the weather and the waves, and it was just
undoable.
Way worse than COVID for the business. Like just. Wow. COVID was manageable, everyone was in the same boat, but when it comes down to the uncontrollables of nature and you're dealing with, it was just a big shock, Yeah. But, so having Bobby was like probably about 1.5, and then I was actually doing a surf camp down the south coast. I take adults down the south coast for escapes.
Yeah.
People that come through the surf school, we do like little surf retreats down there, which have now sort of turned into these surf wellness retreats, which is sick.
Yeah, I know.
We're
I'm gonna come down and do one with you, and we're gonna do our Groms thing.
Oh, I love them, man.
Can't wait.
They're so sick. Doing one of them, and then I got a phone call from my sister-in-law, and I was in a car with a few of the people and my wife Lauren, and they told me, they just kept saying sorry, and I couldn't figure. I just had this most high-level anxiety, stress, like my body was vibrating at the most, and I knew something was up. I just could only think of mum and dad and the bad reception coming up, and I was just, it was just the most horrible feeling for that hour until we got reception back up to top of Mount Ousley was crap, because I just knew something wasn't right. And then I spoke to her, and she said that I'm sorry, your dad's not here anymore. And that was that was the news that my awesome dad had actually he took his own life.
Fuck, man, it's just so sorry that you've had to go through that, and as well with your manager, like mental illness and like suicide is just obviously super important to me, and the work that I do, it's so important that we do, I think, have these conversations and show the impact it has on people, but as well the work that you're doing now as well to bring awareness to it, to raise money and show that this is something that we just need to I mean, I don't know the solution. It's like, how do we better support people? And I think it comes from these conversations, these awarenesses we try and...
It's not a quick fix. It's not that. Like, I learned so much now knowing how much I want to help people and looking back at what things lifestyle-wise and looking after yourself that my dad could have done as well, that would have improved his well-being. And
yeah, because you like talk about, obviously, people listen to the beginning of this podcast back now and understand the life that your dad worked so hard to give you guys, but then
so selfless, man.
Was there any signs or anything, or was it just
he had terrible sleep apnea, which is a part of him overworking, being overtired. He actually had a test. This is cool to know. He had a sleeping test overnight in hospital about a year before he passed away, and he stopped breathing 150 times.
Wow!
In one night, so he would stop breathing and wake himself up and go back to sleep. So he wasn't getting any rest, man. And a 60-year-old man working 5-6 days a week, trying to do it,
those baseline things like sleep, nutrition, exercise. Like one of them's that out of whack. It's just,
and it's also like other lessons from that. Now, just the community. Like, he worked so hard, he didn't have the energy to go out with a bunch of mates and have that external sort of connection and feel a part of something bigger. He had a family that fucking adored him.
Yeah,
and more than. I think I just love it. All these kids wanted to hang out with him, not just because he was their dad. He wasn't the dad that would give them advice and tell you this. He was, it was just cool to be around. Just his humbleness and everything as well. It was just great to be around someone like that, and how hard he worked and still be authentic to who he was. And he was too selfless. Obviously so selfless, he didn't think about himself enough, which is the saddest thing, to think of someone who's so fucking loved can think that little of themselves. It's heartbreaking, man. It's everyone, and it's I feel like a freaking self-help book, but I've said it. I'll talk about my record, but like, everyone deserves to feel awesome, and that's something that it naturally came out of me when I was doing the world record. I couldn't remember a lot of the interviews because I was so fucking cooked. I went back and looked at them with Lauren. Then a couple of days later, I was like, fuck. I said exactly everything that I would have even scripted. I would have written.
Because it's from the heart. It's your authentic truth.
Complete connection with what I was saying.
Man, you can hear it in your voice, like how important this sort of stuff is for you. And I can't imagine how hard that time would have been for you and your family to grieve through that period with someone who's obviously such a close friend and dad to all you guys.
He's a mate, like just a proper mate. Like, you'd want to hang out with him, and that's why I think. We loved him, and I'm so proud of all my brothers. They're amazing. They're amazing. They've all dealt with it differently. Some of them aren't as close as they were before it, and I still love all of them with all my heart. But we're all different. We all deal with things differently, and I'm proud of how hard they all work. How the husbands and fathers they are to their kids, and that's a testament to my dad and how he treated my mum and how hard he worked. And man, you can't put value on that. It's just something that. It's a legacy, and that's the true meaning of it, for sure.
Mate, and I'm sure from knowing yourself and Ben obviously very well as well, like, your dad would be so proud of you guys, like what you guys
I
do,
hope he's
like
proud of
what Ben
himself.
does behind the scenes for everyone, what you do behind the scenes. Like that's what people don't see is like, and don't get recognition for. That's like what a true good human is. And I'm sure your dad, and hopefully he can look down now on you guys and be proud of himself. Like you said, that he's been able to
all we'd ever
guide
want.
you guys to be the sort of men you are. Because you're top blokes. It's amazing to see what you guys have achieved. And yeah, let's speak about this world record now. When did the idea come about? And what was the inception of the idea? And then we'll go through the stages. I want to get into this for a bit.
So okay. So it came about. So this is 10 years since my dad took his own life.
Yeah.
And I had to make a few lifestyle changes, sort of.
Let's rewind real quickly before we go to the world record surf. There's something else that you do that's really cool. You've run marathons barefoot. Yeah, you've done these big physical challenges, because this will probably lead into the world record surf a bit. The fact that you've really liked to push yourself. So where did pushing the limits physically and running marathons, no shoes, come from?
Yeah, well, it's a cool little story. But the best way to describe it is a few years ago, me and my kids were looking at Instagram in bed before going to bed. We love looking back when they were kids and they have a giggle and stuff. And then we started looking at through it the years, and it would be like they started going fat dad, skinny dad, fat dad, skinny dad. And it would be in summer when I'm fucking hectic, busy and flat out at the surf school. And you'd think, you get fit then. No, I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't training as much, didn't have the time. I wasn't eating well. I'd just be consumed in the business and being there for my family when I finished work. So because they were young at that stage. And so it was like in summer but in winter when the surf school get quiet, we do some retreats in Bali and Indo and Fiji. I'd have the time to spend going and running on the treadmill. And I'd go and run on the treadmill because I could get it done quickly and wouldn't be away from the kids when they were young. Or the clients we had surfing with us. So in winter, I'd get real fit, start eating healthy because it's accessible over there, and have that extra time to look after myself. So it was this fluctuation in sort of my fitness that we noticed. And then one time I did one of those fight clubs where you sign up for 3 months and then you have an amateur fight at the end of it.
My roommate's got a fight tonight.
Sick.
He just did that. He's like, he's got his first Muay Thai fight tonight at like the exhibition thing. Yeah,
sick.
Crazy.
That's epic. So I did one of them, and then I just love that physical challenge of I've always loved big waves and that pushing yourself in that
out
aspect.
Of the comfort zone a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I've always loved that. Never shied away from that. And I did that. Really enjoyed it. And then we came back from a retreat in Bali, and Lauren just supporting Lauren doing a diet, and I'd been running that winter. So just changing my diet slightly after training and already being fit, my body started to feel better. So I just continued to run, and I wasn't as sore as what I was just by changing. We took sugar out for 2 weeks, and my body instantly, within 5 or 10 days, I was like, wow, man, I'm running every single day. Not many people do that. And I could feel that just less inflammation. It felt good. Wow. And then so I kept challenging myself to go further through it, and then took out bread, which was super hard, and then took out dairy, and then just for the challenge, thought I'll take out meat. So then I ended up being a vegan for 5 years. But through that process, just running a lot more. For 5 years, running a lot more. Signed up for the next fight club because I was just feeling so good. I'll go again. Did another fight club.
Did you win the fight the first time?
Pardon?
Did you win them both?
I won the first one, and it was a close decision. The second one got ripped off. Nah, just joking. There was a sick battle. The second one was epic, but it was at the Sharkies Leagues Club, and all my mates were there. It was a sick night. Oh, sick. I gave it my all, so can't just short. Fight of the night, but
fuck yeah, love that.
I'm not much of a fighter. But yeah, did that, and then was running a lot for that training, and I just fell in love. Just kept going, and then just signed up for the local Sutherland to surf and the city to surf and the Sydney Marathon. Signed up for them, and then went to Bali again that next year from the retreats and cut my foot surfing Desert Point. Got flogged on a wave, and just down the end how shallow it is down there.
I've never been there, but I've seen.
Never been there.
I've never been there.
Oh shit!
One day
you will. You love it. And then cut my foot wide open, and then it was pretty bad though. You know how they go into the volcanoes and they never seem to heal.
Rock, yeah.
But right there, you can see on my heel. This is where it pokes out a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
That's just scar tissue. Went back to Bali and went, sweet, I'll just put my shoes on and run on the treadmills because I'm not going to run with the Bali dogs out at night, 4 a.m. And then, I just kept running barefoot, got home, went to put shoes on again. It was the middle of winter, and it just bled out all through my shoe, just crook. I'm like, I'll go barefoot. I wasn't going to stop. It was nearly at the beginning of those races. and just went barefoot and just battled through the agony of bare feet through that winter. End up doing all 3 of them races barefoot. Then my first marathon I did, barefoot, no water, no food, no supplements, just did it full bareback to test myself. And
how'd you go? Did you
I did like
3 hour mark and
I did 3 hours 40 minutes.
Good on you. That's very impressive.
I just tested.
How's your body once you hit that like 30K mark without?
I've got this thing like 33Ks when I'm doing that way, when I'm trying to go as raw as I can and do that. 33Ks is just like, it's like the second I hit that, it's just like the body just goes, nah. It's gnarly.
It's like it stops running.
It's gnarly. That's how I felt. I'm going for the sickest time, and then I'm like, 33Ks is here. I've only done about 5 or 6 marathons with completely nothing. Just to test. Like,
that's bloody epic.
But that's a part of me getting better too, starting to look after myself more in that regard. So I can do these adventures and I can do this stuff and still surf. And I did start this stuff so I could feel good and surf better.
Yeah.
And continue to like be out in the ocean as much as possible. But I can run in the morning. I get up at 4 every morning and I run every morning. No one needs me then. My wife, my kids don't need me. Business doesn't need me. I'm out alone running the Esplanade or the beach or something like that. And it's sort of my time. And as a busy dad and business owner, that's the kind of things you got to do if you actually want to keep improving, find that time. And we're all going to be tired. Everyone goes, you're tired all the time. I'm like, we're tired anyway. Like you're stressed at work, or you've got kids of your own, or you do another activities through the day, but a little bit more tired, and you can have that big difference in.
Yeah. And it creates energy, like going for runs. I need to go for more runs, but the endurance that it takes to do marathons is massive. But the world record you set, I guess about a month ago now from we're speaking, was something that obviously has never been done. 40 hours straight in the surf. Where did the idea come? You said obviously the 10-year reunion of your dad passing. Yeah, so where did the idea come? You raised money for the Chumpy Foundation, which is a gala we're going to tonight. It's obviously an important guy in my life, in yours, in Ben's, in our community's life. So let's talk about where the idea came, why the Chumpy Foundation, and
So after that barefoot marathon, I started just this question of what's possible. I kept feeling better through the changes I'd made and pushing myself to those extremes for me. And I just thought, I'm going to run 100Ks next. So then I did a couple 100K runs and
barefoot?
ended up, I done one barefoot,
wow,
where I can. And then did 100 miles on my own through the national park. And so just pretty raw, like everything's pretty raw. Like, put a backpack at Bendalong and run from Berry to Ulladulla and get there. Like obviously got my Garmin on and shit, but just sort of doing it pretty raw.
Doing it for yourself.
Doing it for myself. And, no music, just doing it.
You and your thoughts.
Yeah, that's it, man. Like, I know Goggins is cheesy and people write him off, but that's one awesome takeaway I got from him. He's like, the music isn't going to help me there when real life situations come. I'm like, fuck, that is so good. I love music. Fucking one of my favorite things in the universe. And it's a reward for me now. Like, I'll make sure there's music at the end of a run. I'll play like NWA and 100 miles of running when I start, just to be psyched up. And it's a long day, a long couple of days if I'm doing 100 miles or whatever to get to the end. And it's one of the things that helps me, look for that goal at the end. So, so I did a couple of those big challenges, and they're brutal, man. I'm a surfer. I'm not a runner, and I don't train to a full routine or anything. It's all pretty raw. I'm adjusting. I've got great people around me that are helping me, and that leads to the world record. I wouldn't have been able to do the world record without the support of my friends and going to see a dietitian and going to do all this. I would have definitely underestimated if I didn't take those precautions for sure. But that's how we got to it. And then I did it. There was a corporate day when Urban Surf first opened. There was this thing called the Barefoot Investors Corporate Day. And one of my coach's wife's a mortgage broker. She got tickets to it. She's like, there's no way I'm going. I said to her husband, do you and Blake want to go? And I'm like, hell yeah, it's $1,000 a ticket. I was like, oh yeah, sick, I'll go. I want to experience it, right? Being a surf coach, and I had that affiliation with it, how good it would be for training. And so I went down and surfed it, sick experience. After 2-3 hours, all the old boys were like just cooked. Like you get pretty cooked after an hour or two.
I went down there the other day.
Yeah. And so all the boys were cooked. We had the whole pool rotating, and then by the third hour, I went in and grabbed a bit of food and went and like there's 3 guys on each side, or 7 guys on the right, 2 on the left. So I was like, can I stay out? They're like, yeah, you can stay out. It's all good. Everyone's coming in. So I ended up doing 7 hours and catching 100 waves. And by the 4th or 5th hour, I'm like, if if I get 2 waves a set, I'm going to get 100 waves. So that was my goal at the end. I just like got 2 waves a set for the last 3 sessions, and I got me to 100 waves that day.
Wow.
And then that was where the idea was planted. Like I'd just done a 40-hour run, and then I looked back at that experience down there. I'm like, oh, if I can run for 40 hours, surely in my natural environment where I feel super comfortable,
you do.
I could do 40 in the water. And that was a bit of arrogance, but you need arrogance when I think
to
a bit.
do something that's never been done, you have to.
Yeah, and just those runs as well. You know, like I don't train like a triathlete or anything or an Ironman. I do it really raw, and that was where it came from. That I just Googled it on the way home because we went down for the one day. I was like, and then I went down in between that session. I've been there 2 or 3 times with the family, and I'm kind of thinking about it in the back of my mind. And just mentioned it to my brother Ben because I was going to do a run. I wanted to do a run from Currumbin to Cronulla because it just sounded good, and stop in and do 50 Ks a day. Stop in and see like Dingo and Connor, and catch up with all the guys I used to surf with. So have that sense of community.
Yeah, that'd be
have
cool.
it about being in the environment, surfing, being out in nature, and then stop in at some schools and do some workshops along the way, like breath work and ice baths, and just continue it on and carry the message down the coast. And then that was an idea, and I was set on doing it. And then I said, this world record thing, and I wanted to surf it. And Ben's like, we'll support you if you want to do it. And I'm like, yeah, but I want it to go to a cause that's more than another conversation. That's what's been really important about me the whole time. Like, society's done a good job of raising awareness for mental health and doing it, but what are some things that we can all know about and do and implement and take action immediately that are free, deliberate, and effective, provenly effective?
It's all there. The tagline for the Good Human Factory is connecting curious minds with simple mental health strategies.
That's it.
They don't have to be bloody extravagant seeing psychologists. It's just like, what can we do for ourselves? What little things do you do each day? Meditation, gratitude, kindness, mindfulness, exercise, ice baths, breath work. There's all these modalities out there, and they don't cost anything. So that's why we're not getting marketed them and thrown down our face. You need this. It's like,
and the community part of it's so important, just because that, the accountability to it, the authenticity to these things, and being true to what you say and what you're doing yourself. That's something that I'm massive of. That, again, I mentioned before, it's what I've taken from my dad and how his legacy's on, but just doing what you say you're going to do. You know what I mean? If you are going to look after yourself, really, really take that on board. It's the most important thing to be doing when you're looking after yourself and you feel good. That's the vibration that the world needs, and the world becomes a better place just by being proud of ourselves and seeking that little bit of progress in ourselves and whatever thing
grow through life, not go through life.
Man,
always grow through life can get better.
Look at yourself too. When you didn't feel any progress, they were the parts of your life where you weren't sure. Even littlest of things didn't feel that rewarding at those points, and can be this. It doesn't have to be 40-hour session or 100-mile run. Like that's what I like to do, and it's not. It's people say, "Oh, you've lost it." I'm like, "No, I found it, man. I found it."
Go to the farmers markets each week, so you're eating healthier food. It's those little things, those little just direction changes,
and you owe it to yourself, man. That's the thing. As soon as they step across that line of discomfort and that challenge and that vulnerability, then there's always a better person of you, a better version of you that you didn't even know existed when you get there.
Love that. So let's talk about this world record surf, because we're gonna get close to an hour soon, but I really want to talk about this surf. The idea is, Ben, I want to do this world record surf. What was the world record prior to you?
30 hours and 7 minutes.
Must have smashed it.
Yeah,
so then logistically, how long before the idea was the surf set up? You had to have big floodlights.
Oh, yeah, we did a test the week before. That was sick. Yeah, that was sick. It all came together pretty quickly. So the Chumpies got their team's amazing.
Yeah, so how did Chumpies Foundation become the partner?
Well,
charity?
Ben just put it to the board and said, look, Blake's going to do this. Do you want to support it?
Yeah.
And then even one of the guys said, oh, yeah. The other week, he's like, I was still imagining 50 of you Blake's core crew cheering him on, but it's just turned into this huge thing.
Yeah.
And, there was like a lot of work went in behind the scenes. Like I keep saying I would have done this on my own with a bunch of my mates supporting me just to get it done. Torch on. But if I could make even the slightest impact on mental health, and that's why I was going to do the run in memory of my dad and keep spreading the word. But it just kept growing and snowballing through it. So all of a sudden I'm doing interviews on
every news
channel over that leading into it. And that was where I had so much anxiety for that, because I'm I talk a lot, but I'm not that articulate or
You're doing
great,
very well,
you
mate.
know.
That's your rapper.
So there was that build up in, like, talk about mental health, that build up, that self imposter syndrome, you know, going, here's my message. And it was all about message. So every time I do something, I'm like, did I say it right? Did the message come through? Like, you know, it's, and you already knew it was bigger than me, you know, and that was important.
Yeah.
That I already knew it was, and that was, I was so anxious about making sure that, hey, yeah, I'm doing something pretty cool, something no one's ever done before. But this is why I'm doing it. It's in memory of my dad, and it's a well needed thing. I spend so much time with kids, and I love kids, and I've got my own that I absolutely adore, and I care about all the kids that come through the circle, the kids that I meet on elite camps and coaching that I've met over the years. It's that, I said earlier, it's about that empathetic and compassionate side of me that it's always been there, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about now the day. You started at 1 a.m. on Thursday morning, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
How was leading into that night? Did you sleep before?
So this is probably the gnarliest thing, and something that was really hard to deal with, the whole surf. I didn't sleep from 4 a.m. on the Tuesday morning. So before
Tuesday, you didn't sleep on the Wednesday night either. Why?
So this is something I was like, fuck. That anxiety I was talking about, where I was built up for these interviews and getting the message right, is shifting. It was like shifting into this positive excitement, and you could feel it happening within me. And people are like, oh, you got to have your goods. How you been sleeping? I'm like, I get up at 4 o'clock. And for most people, that doesn't, you know, I go to bed at 9:30 after I wrestle my groms and go to bed at 9:30, 10. There's no real super structure to it.
Yeah.
So I get 5.5 hours of sleep, sometimes 6 most nights.
Wow.
And I get up at 4 o'clock. So everyone's like, oh, you got to get more sleep. You got to do all this. There's advice coming from everyone. I'm like, I'm going to do whatever my body feels, whatever I feel like, without putting that pressure on me to have this, to make a change a week, day out from the hardest thing I've ever done. So yeah, like I woke up at 4 o'clock normal, thinking I'd go to bed that night as normal, but just this energy kind of shifted, like know what the forecast is hopefully going to be like, which it wasn't quite like.
Yeah.
And then, just this good energy, still bits and bits, putting the lights on the board, stickers, my boys being excited, having the day off, checking the waves, making sure that anyone needed help setting up. There was a lot to do. Yeah. And it was just getting bigger as it happened. You know, people were just more interested in it.
Yeah.
So my wife, Shelley from the Jumpy, one of my good mates, Laura, Jay's, who else? Ben Rennie, my brother Ben, they were all just, man, they did so much to get it to where it got to have the impact it did. So
that's amazing. So 1 a.m. first night, paddle out. What did you need to achieve the world record? It was like a certain amount of waves and a certain time.
Yeah. So the marathon was like, you're not allowed to sit there for sustained amount of time. Like you can't sit there for an hour and go having my rest, catching waves and just sitting in the water. It had to be, you know, paddling to, from, or for a wave every 10 minutes.
Wow.
So that was, and it was the rules were kind of not loose, but there's only been 2 people that attempted it before, and Guinness have never sanctioned them. Yeah. So they won't sanction them because of safety concerns, and they want to charge you 20 grand to be in the book and do all that, right? Yeah. So I was pretty upset when I got the news. After 3 months of the team dealing with them, they said, we've decided on review that it's due to safety concerns. We won't sanction your world record. And I'm like, well, we've been dealing with you forever. And I was a bit devo going, no, it doesn't really validate it. But filming it and being there and the support and the impact it has validates it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, fuck you, Guinness. And I actually spoke to Josh Enslin, the dude that did the world record last time, South African guy, fucking legend. Nicest bloke. He reached out to me and goes, and this is the night before, hey, man, I just wanted to reach out to you and say, look after your eyes. Goggles are a deal breaker, and maintain your well-being and look after yourself 2 to 3 months after it. Wow. It's when I felt emotionally drained and shoulders still lethargic and fatigued. That's so cool. It was a legend. And then I had a chat with him, and I was like, you didn't wear goggles or anything? He's like, no, I did the edits because he surfs pretty well, and his edits look sick. Red Bull sponsored. He's ripping, and all his mates are there. And then so he sent me through some proof. Like he had goggles on, looked like a dork like me. More sunscreen than you ever had on. Wow. There's shit everywhere and just looked cooked. Yeah. But his edits looking like he's ripping. So he said he felt responsible to make sure I looked after myself. Yeah, wow. So what a legend to reach out to that. Cool. Good dude. And then
so first morning you paddle out, 1 a.m, lights are on.
Paddle out, the surf's probably 2-3 foot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And that was really, you paddled out, right?
Yeah, I paddled out at 5 a.m. that first morning. It was solid and dark.
People are like, you had the best conditions for it. Like,
you couldn't see the waves out the back. It was like a rip bowl dunny, but like it was hard in the morning.
And what time did you paddle out?
5.
So I was already been out there for 4 hours.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
And I was out the back for the
first. I was so tired, and I was like, he's been out there for 2 hours.
I'd been out the back for most of the morning. And it was just
so dark out there.
Mate, it was so consistent. There was so many fucking waves. Like, it wasn't just 5 foot. I'd call it 5 foot.
Yeah,
I reckon the big sets.
For sure, definitely.
But really get like 5-6 wave sets. So the amount of duck dives I did was
before the sun had even come up for day one.
Like, in an hour, you were working pretty hard, right?
Yeah, I was bucketed.
Yeah, and I end up, we calculated, I did about 350 to 370 duck dives before the sun came up.
On the first day.
On the first day.
4 hours into 40.
Yeah, and so that was one of the hardest parts because it was frustration. It was like I was expecting to be out there with my best mates because the part of the
catching a couple
permit was like have some water safety.
At night, you had your mates out
there. Yeah, and organise my mates to be there, but they'd paddle out and we just get ping-ponged like you did.
Yeah.
Across the alley, over near the rock pools, up near the wall. I was just going, man, this isn't that fun for anyone joining me. You know what I mean? I thought I was just going to have a hell time. Then the big jellyfish, there was a shit ton of jellyfish. Yeah. And then because it was bigger than expected, the lights, when I was out the back, the pitch behind the wave was so dark that your eyes just wouldn't adjust because it'd be so dark and then you'd turn around and paddle for a wave.
Yeah, it was hard.
It was hard and that was constant. I ended up riding a wave on average every 3 minutes, 24 seconds for 40 hours and 7 minutes. So
wow.
I was definitely working for it, especially in conditions like that.
And every 3 minutes? Holy shit. Yeah, I caught a bunch when you were out there. So, because this 40 hours is going to take a long time to get through if we go through every bit. Let's talk about that first sunrise. It was fucking beautiful. I was down there. It was so nice. And then you saw, the waves are actually quite nice. You would have surfed out the back and got...
The waves good. So, that first part was definitely one of the hardest parts. And
really?
I'm really going to have to earn this, man. They're really
making hard because you're like, oh shit, I've got to go all day today and then all night tonight and then all day tomorrow.
Already how I felt. Like my shoulders were cooked from a 7-hour surf and the sun wasn't even up. You know what I mean? So at that point, I've got 33 hours left. And that was kind of took me by surprise, mentally, feeling that bad physically that early. But then the waves got really good. Like,
yeah, just have a sick day.
And I was just thinking, so I was like, you know what? If it was 2 foot shory, I could nail this world record. I could catch 1,000 waves, but I really earn it. Like, I'm proud of that fact that I surfed properly. Yeah, like I surfed every wave till the end of it, and there was a few waves I took off closeouts to keep moving. But I definitely gave every wave I could as much as the wave was allowing me.
Yeah, wow.
So that was a big part of it, being authentic to what I said.
Mate,
I rode one board, wore one wetty, and I easily could have slipped into some boardies on a 35-degree day. Yeah. That's what made it hard. When the sun came out, it was pumping that morning. Yeah. It was pumping. I was 4 or 5 foot. The odd sick left, and I had some fun there.
Let's go to that Thursday night. So the Thursday night, they had like an event down the beach, with people like in a marquee to raise money and have a dinner and stuff, while you're sitting out there surfing.
Yeah, they had the cocktail dinner.
What was that experience like, watching everyone, knowing that everyone's...
At that stage, I was cooked, man. But that was probably about, what would it have been, 18, 19 hours in when the sun was starting to set, and it was a beautiful afternoon, man. It was a gorgeous day.
Sorry, Thursday night.
Thursday night. And then it was just this, you could sense everyone on the beach. There was like so many people swimming, so many people in the cocktail room. And it was just the sickest, I wasn't paying attention to it, but you could feel the energy of everyone that down there. Everyone was happy. There was so many people coming and sharing waves with me. It got so busy. Like, I was only meant to have 1 or 2 in the water with me, but there was
at night on that night, there was 10, 20, 30 people.
Way
sometimes.
More. There was close to 100 people in the water.
What?
And by that time, the swell was dropping, the tide went low, and it was a sucky little rip bank, and it was dangerous, man, for a while there.
So that would have probably...
I reckon you could easily say there was 100 people at the water.
Was it hard for you as well, having like 100 people who were probably mates, like not really wanting to... Were you interacting
there was guys I didn't really know, and I was like thinking, these guys have an experience they've never had. I'm glad I can put that on for them.
Well, that's what you're going to meet my friend Corey, who's probably going to walk through the door any second if Carol's been checking her phone. And he's like world champion wakeboarder, and he came out, and I'm going to show you a vlog actually that I made with Good Human Factor. It's on YouTube now. That just my sister and all the people that brought me, like you can see the excitement that what you did brought them, and like I can only imagine there's hundreds, thousands of people that came down to that beach over the 40 hours.
Yeah.
But it would have just been so cool. Let's talk about that next morning when the sun's coming back up, and did that feel like you'd made it once the sun was coming up, or were you like, holy shit, because you broke the world record then? I still
had so long to go. I was never going to get out with the world record. I had the 40 hours and I was doing that no matter what.
So you broke the world record for the sunrise on the Friday morning, and that's when all the news came down. You're allowed to come in and go to the toilet like once every hour or something,
You could go to the toilet. I was okay with that. Like you're allowed, the previous world record got 5 minutes every hour, and he built some up at the start when he was feeling fine. And I was like, I'm coming in as minimum as possible.
Yeah.
So that ended up being the doctor, my good mate Graham, and the paramedics that would tell me when I'd have to come in.
Yeah.
I didn't want to come in. That was one part I got so fucking frustrated. I was like swearing and going, I want to fucking surf. I want to get this done. And I'm not like that. I don't.
Yeah.
But I was.
Your emotions are
everywhere. I was getting really frustrated with it. And without that, like without the support and then the experts there,
because I
would have cooked myself, man.
I looked at it. You had every 30 minutes.
Yeah, every 30 minutes. Lifeguards had food, water that they'd serve me out there, paddling back out from a wave. Come into the beach for the check, and after 20 hours, it's every hour I had to get checked.
Yeah,
and they had to check my pupils and my vitals and all that stuff. Give me as much food as possible, and it was a horrible last 20 hours. I had the worst. I don't get heartburn. My throat was swollen. My tongue was swollen.
Wow.
Heartburn to my guts. I was in agony from that, let alone my neck and my shoulders.
Yeah.
But that in particular wasn't expected. I just thought, I'd get through the food. But that was just like, what's this?
Couldn't get anything down.
What's this? Yeah. And just, the eyes too. The eyes hurt so much the whole time because I was duck diving so much the first time.
So that's what your mate, the guy who did it before, warned you about, huh? The eyes.
And I had the goggles on. And
also you're wearing goggles towards
not in the night, in the day. I wear the goggles. I had to. I couldn't even, I could see. I won't say I was blind, but so consistent. I had to hit the boys go, yep, there's a lull, and charge it when there was a lull because it was still 4 or 5 foot during the day. And then my eyes just hurt really early on. All the pain came on a lot sooner than I thought. I've done 10-hour surfs before, get to 10, 12, and I'm going to have to push through. But from 4 hours in, just because of how hard the waves were, it made me really earn it. And I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to earn it.
I'm going to do it.
It's going to make me earn it. This will be
crazy. So the Friday morning, everyone comes down. That's when you break the official world record. Yeah, and the news are all on the beach and whatnot.
Yeah.
What was that last day like, trying to get through to 6 p.m?
Like I was saying, there was a couple of cool things that happened all along the way. Like at 5 o'clock that morning, I rode my 500th wave.
Sick.
So the world record wasn't getting broken until 7, and the world record of the amount of waves was 436. So by 5 o'clock, I'd already done way more than that then. So that was a pretty cool moment when I came in. I was cooked, obviously.
The most waves ever caught in a surf is the record you'd have as well.
And I don't remember that being exciting. I was fucking at that stage. And I came in and they're like, 500, I'm like, cool. I didn't even consume it. But when I finished it and Lauren had these things written down, I was like, 500 wave at 5, not even 5:01, 5 o'clock in the morning, 500 waves. I was like, that's pretty sick.
That's sick.
It's pretty sick.
Most waves ever caught. That's
and then, cool. 7 o'clock world record. That was pretty sick. My swell dropped. All these things happened. Like the swell dropped off enough for my little 7-year-old to paddle out, or 8-year-old to paddle out and sit with me as that time ticked over out the back. So we've got some pretty cool images from that. It's amazing.
Sick.
And then on the way in, like my wife surfs a fair bit. She loves it, but she only gets out once or twice a week. Normally pushing her around. We split a peak. I went left, she went right, and then there was heaps of people on the beach for us. So that was pretty cool too.
Wow.
The boys caught a wave in, and then that was pretty special, But that's I still had 10 hours to go, so I did a couple of videos on the beach and just went, here we go. Here comes Hurt Town.
And just held on till the end. What was it like coming into the beach? What was the least expected thing that kind of you experienced? Was it the heartburn?
Well, I guess. Yeah, it was the state of mind I was in. The actual amazing, the resilience I showed through and the way I controlled it. You know what I mean?
Mind just like, I'm not quitting, so I'm here until the end, whatever.
There was never a doubt, not from that. There was never a doubt. If that sleep thought, like the way I think about it is like, it was almost like the perfect state of mind that we were all aiming to be as close to as possible, where we're having our thoughts and we only take on what's positive and effective in our lives. Like the thought of not sleeping for 3 days and still being in the water with 5 hours to go would rattle. I mean, normally would rattle most people going, wow, that's testing your resolve. That's a big deal. Yeah. But it didn't even affect me. That thought would come in and it'd simply just be the thought, pass on. And then I just trusted the process like never before. I knew that how bad it was was where I was meant to be.
Yeah.
And that whatever, you could have had an apocalypse and I would have
stayed out
there and done it and got to the end of that, So I kept saying to me, you have to drag my body out. You literally would have. That's why I was getting so frustrated coming in. Like I could be riding my waves. I got to get to the limits of what's possible, what I can do.
Yeah.
And it was that. I trusted it so much. Like, energy was coming at the right time. I would finish a wave, close my eyes and do my nose breathing. I normally in the water, I teach to breathe through your mouth, obviously a lot safer, but I know that I can slow my breath down, create that energy for the oxygen that I can absorb better by breathing slow and paddle out the alley rip bowl, my favorite, with my eyes closed in the rip. Know that when I would open them, that I knew that this little wedge would come and I'd do 3 cutties in a Rio and it'd be done. I was so present and immersed in what was going on around me that I was taking everything else in subconsciously.
Very, like, spiritual experience for you, kind of.
I think that's what you
well,
must call
like
it.
doing it in
everything was coming in.
It's so beautiful.
I wasn't thinking. I was just immersed in the situation because I was taking everything subconsciously because now afterwards I'm piecing it together, even still, when I couldn't remember nothing of it. And then I'll see a photo, have a conversation with you or anyone that was involved in it. And I vividly remember to the little splash on my face, to the exact tone in their voice, to everything, exactly how it happened.
Remember me throwing you some wax?
Man, 100%. Like, honestly, I'm not making up this lie.
I remember it as well. Like, it's so, just because of the experience, I was like, this is something I'll always cherish to know that I was involved
everyone
in.
felt connected, right? Like that's what everyone on the beach. You look at these photos, and everyone's smiling. It's not even like you have to talk about a vibe. You look at these photos and they light you up because everyone was there for a bigger cause than themselves. It wasn't about them. It was not about me. It was about everyone being there together. It was amazing. You know what I mean? Like, and I was a big part of that, but it wasn't about me. It was to be able to.
That's what it created for the community.
Oh,
it's so special.
The reach went everywhere. You could obviously feel it looking through a screen with the reach it had. And
crazy. And then finished the record, 40 hours, raised over $400,000 for the Chumpy Foundation. Like, mate, congratulations for starters. Like, so special. What does that mean to you to know that not only breaking the world record, inspiring your community, but then also close to $500,000 to be able to run programs just like the ones that you do? Speaking to your brother, there might be some opportunities for us to get to do some stuff together with that money to help some, kids think a bit differently about mental health and be inspired to push the limits and realize we are capable of so much more than quite often the school system tells us we are, our families tell us we are. It's like so important to see people do things like you've just done to show what is possible.
I think it's influenced through experience. The kids and my generation, our generation that are older, how we living by example and being more self-aware in ourselves. That just leading by example is what it is, and doing it because we want to do it, and that's where we're going to have the effect ourselves. Yeah. But putting them in situations and influencing them through experience, not another like a lecture from a school teacher. Someone like yourself doing something cool and relatable.
Yeah, it's just a bit
being
different.
out and actually having a bushwalk, getting fit because it's not just about looking good, because it actually is the massive part of you being the best version of yourself, and feeling mentally amazing.
Yeah.
So it's that's what I want to do. I know now that I can have an impact on people, and I'm pretty sick of seeing my weathered head. But if that means that it can inspire people to do shit they never would have done, or dig themselves out of a hole, no matter what it be, then I have a responsibility that I'm gonna fulfill and do that.
It's you're gonna inspire so many continuing through the work that you do. I'm sure there's probably on the horizon some other sort of crazy challenge or record that you're looking at doing, but I am conscious of time. It is, you've got your beautiful family up here on the Goldie. I'm sure your Groms want to go surf, but I just want to quickly touch on what was the 24 hours after like, because I already spoke to you about this, but I think the people listening are going to be blown away. It wasn't just a home at 8 o'clock and sleep all day, or
no,
up at 4 a.m.
I was up at 4 a.m. the next day, and then Lauren was like, "Get back to bed." I don't remember. I remember just getting to the hospital and I had a drip.
Hospital the first night.
Yeah, the first night I spent 4 hours in the hospital. Just had 3 drips, and then I can't remember. Besides waking up, got out of bed straight away, reacted, and Lauren's like, "Get back to bed." And I was like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Oh my god,
it was sick, and that's why I said I just couldn't remember any of it. And then I saw a photo, and I'm like in tears for probably 3-4 days, just going, "Wow, man! Like this is pretty powerful." And and again, everyone deserves to feel like that. That's it.
It's good. But mate, thank you so much for sharing all your story. I'm looking forward to tonight. I'm sure we're going to talk about it a bit at the gala, which is really exciting. Excited as well to hopefully do some work together later in the year. We've been chatting about doing some stuff together with some of the young surfers and the young community of our surf industry, which is super special. But then hopefully as well through the foundation, we can do some stuff with the snow community and just give some of them opportunities that we obviously had as young professional athletes that some others don't have, which is so important to me, and I'm sure you as well. But I do finish every episode of Good Humans podcast with the same question, and I'm very excited to hear what you've got for this. But what does being a good human mean to Blake Johnston?
It means being proud of yourself first and foremost, and looking after the people around you, showing compassion and being empathetic, and just realizing that everyone deserves to feel awesome.
Absolutely love that, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to leave in the show notes a link. Can you still donate to the World Record Surf?
Can, yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave the link. I've got a Good Human one, actually. So that'll be in the show notes. You can go donate to the World Record Surf. It's phenomenal what you achieved. But the why behind it is what really inspires me, that it was in memory of your dad. It was for the Chumpy Foundation, and it was you just pushing the limits to inspire not only your peers, but also the whole community of Cronulla and the world because of the reach that it ended up having. So, mate, from the bottom of my heart, thanks for this chat. Thanks for bloody everything you've done. And, thanks for jumping on Good Humans.
Thank you.
You're the man. Sick.